The rejection email glowed on Sarah Mitchell's phone screen like a cruel joke. "We regret to inform you that we have decided to move forward with other candidates." Her hands trembled as she read the words again, each one a nail in the coffin of her dreams. 3 months of job hunting, 27 applications, and this interview, this one perfect interview, had been her last real shot at salvaging everything she'd worked for. The position at Henderson Global Enterprises would have changed her life. It would have paid off her mother's medical bills, saved their small apartment from foreclosure, and given her little brother a chance at college. But now, sitting on a cold bench outside the very building where she'd interviewed. Just hours ago, Sarah felt the weight of failure crushing her chest. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. Instead, she just stared at her phone, wondering how she'd explain this to her family, wondering how many more nights she'd lie awake calculating impossible math, trying to stretch dollars that simply didn't exist. She almost didn't notice the little girl at first. The child couldn't have been more than 7 years old, standing near the building's revolving doors with tears streaming down her face. Her expensive-looking school uniform was disheveled, one knee sock bunched around her ankle, her small shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. People rushed past, her dozens of well-dressed professionals, flowing in and out of Henderson. Global's gleaming headquarters, but nobody stopped. Nobody even slowed down. Sarah knew she should leave. She should go home, let herself fall apart in private, start updating her resume for the 28th time. Her own crisis was more than enough to handle, but something about that little girl's frightened face made Sarah's feet move before her brain could argue. "Hey, sweetie," Sarah said softly, kneeling down to the child's level. "Are you okay? Are you lost?" The girl looked up with wide, terrified eyes. "I can't find my daddy," she whispered, her voice breaking. "He said to wait by the fountain. But I got confused and now I don't know where I am and my phone is dead and—" Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Sarah glanced at her watch. Her bus would leave in 8 minutes. It was the last affordable route home, and missing it meant a 2-hour wait or an expensive rideshare she absolutely couldn't afford. But this child was clearly panicking, and Sarah couldn't just walk away. "It's going to be okay," Sarah said, forcing warmth into her voice despite the anxiety gnawing at her own stomach. "We'll find your daddy." "What's your name?" "Emma," the girl sniffled. "I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you, Emma. Now, do you know your daddy's phone number?" Emma nodded and recited it. Sarah pulled out her phone, the one she'd been staring at moments ago, reading her rejection, and dialed. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. Sarah's bus pulled up to the stop across the street. She watched it pause, watched people board, watched her chance at getting home slip away. The doors closed. The bus drove off. "Do you remember what floor your daddy works on?" Sarah asked. Emma shook her head miserably. "It's really high up. You can see the whole city, but I don't remember the number." The building had 43 floors. Sarah had learned that during her research, before the interview, back when she'd been so certain. This was her moment, her breakthrough. The security desk was visible through the glass doors. But Sarah had no credentials, no appointment, no legitimate reason to be there anymore. She'd already been escorted out once today, politely but firmly, after her interview concluded. For a moment, Sarah felt the unfairness of it all crash over her again. She'd done everything right. She'd prepared obsessively for that interview, had answered every question thoughtfully, had researched the company until she could recite their mission statement in her sleep. And still, it hadn't been enough. She'd failed. And now she was about to miss her bus home, drain her last few dollars, all for a child who wasn't her responsibility. But then Emma slipped her small hand into Sarah's and something shifted. This little girl was scared and alone, and Sarah knew exactly how that felt. "Okay," Sarah said, squeezing Emma's hand gently. "Let's go talk to security." The guard at the desk was the same one who'd checked Sarah in for her interview, a stern-faced man named Rodriguez, whose expression softened slightly when he saw Emma. "Mr. Rodriguez," Sarah said, "this is Emma. She's lost and trying to find her father who works in this building. Her phone is dead and we can't reach him. Can you help us?" Rodriguez frowned. "Do you know the father's name?" Sarah turned to Emma. Sweetie, what's your daddy's full name? James Henderson, Emma said quietly. The blood drained from Rodriguez's face. Sarah felt her own heart stop. James Henderson, as in James Henderson, founder and CEO of Henderson Global Enterprises, as in the billionaire whose company Sarah had just failed to get hired by, the man whose executive team had interviewed her, the man who, according to every article she'd read, was notoriously private about his family. Rodriguez was already reaching for his phone, his fingers flying across the screen. Within seconds, the lobby erupted into controlled chaos. Security personnel appeared from multiple directions. Someone brought Emma water and a blanket, though she wasn't cold. Everyone spoke in hushed, urgent tones. Sarah tried to step back, to fade into the background. But Emma wouldn't let go of her hand. "Please don't leave," Emma whispered. And Sarah's heart cracked open a little more. So she stayed, even as the minutes ticked by, even as she calculated the mounting cost of the rideshare she'd eventually need, even as she felt herself becoming smaller and more invisible in the presence of all these important, purposeful people. Then the elevator doors opened, and a man strode out with the kind of presence that made everyone else seem like background extras. James Henderson was younger than Sarah expected, maybe mid-40s, with dark hair starting to gray at the temples and eyes that looked like they'd forgotten how to rest. But when he saw Emma, his entire face transformed. "Emma?" He rushed forward, dropping to his knees and pulling his daughter into his arms. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. My phone died during back-to-back meetings, and I lost track of time, and—" His voice cracked with emotion. Sarah hadn't expected from a man known for his ruthless business acumen. Emma clung to him, crying again, but this time with relief. "I got so scared, Daddy, I couldn't find you." "I know, baby, I know. I'm here now." He held her for a long moment, and Sarah used the opportunity to quietly slip away toward the doors. "Wait." Henderson's voice stopped her. He was standing now, Emma still in his arms, and his eyes locked onto Sarah with an intensity that made her want to disappear. "You're the one who helped her?" Sarah nodded. She was upset. Anyone would have done the same." "But they didn't," Henderson said simply. He shifted Emma slightly. "Rodriguez told me you stayed with her, tried to call me, brought her inside even though you had no reason to be in this building. He said you missed your bus." Sarah felt her cheeks burn. "It's fine, really. I'm just glad she's okay." Henderson studied her for a moment, and Sarah had the uncomfortable feeling of being seen, truly, seen for the first time in months. Not as a candidate or a statistic or a resume, but as a person. "What's your name?" "Sarah Mitchell." Something flickered in Henderson's eyes recognition. He turned to one of the executives, hovering nearby. "The interview roster from this morning." "Pull it up!" The executive tapped on a tablet, then showed Henderson the screen. His jaw tightened. "You interviewed for the operations manager position today." It wasn't a question, but Sarah answered anyway. "Yes, I got the rejection email about an hour ago." Henderson's eyes narrowed dangerously, but not at Sarah. "Who sent that?" "Sir?" The executive looked confused. "Who authorized sending out rejections before I reviewed the final candidates?" The executive paled. "HR thought it would expedite the process since we had several strong candidates and—" "Sarah Mitchell," Henderson interrupted, still holding Emma, "stayed with my terrified daughter when she could. Should've walked away to catch her bus. She has no connection to me, no expectation of reward, and had just received bad news from this very company. And still, she chose kindness." He looked back at Sarah. "Tell me, Ms. Mitchell, why did you help her?" Sarah blinked, caught off guard by the directness of the question. "Because she needed help," she said simply. "Because she was scared and alone, and I couldn't just leave her like that." "Even though it cost you?" Sarah thought about the bus she missed, the money she didn't have, the rejection still burning on her phone. "Some things matter more than cost," she said quietly. Henderson was silent for a long moment. Then he set Emma down gently, though he kept one hand on her shoulder, and extended his other hand to Sarah. "Ms. Mitchell, I've built a multi-billion-dollar company by learning to recognize character. Skills can be taught, knowledge can be gained, but integrity, the kind that makes someone choose compassion over convenience, that's rare. That's invaluable." He paused. The operations manager position is still open, and I'd like to offer it to you, if you're still interested. With a starting salary 15% higher than originally posted, and full benefits from day one, Sarah felt the world tilt. What? You're hired, Henderson said simply. That is, if you can forgive us for the premature rejection email and my abysmal parenting that put my daughter in danger today. You didn't, Sarah started, but Emma interrupted. Sarah was really nice, Daddy. She made me feel safe. Henderson's eyes softened as he looked at his daughter, then back at Sarah. That's the kind of person I want in my company. Someone who leads with humanity. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. Yes, she managed. Yes, I'm still interested. Thank you. Thank you so much. As Sarah left Henderson Global that evening with a job offer, letter in her bag and money for a comfortable ride home that Henderson had insisted on, she realized something profound. She'd walked into that building hours ago, desperate for a job that would solve her problems. She'd walked out with something more, a reminder that kindness isn't weakness, that doing the right thing matters even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mom. How did it go? Sarah smiled through tears and typed back, I'll tell you everything when I get home. But Mom, I think everything's going to be okay.